Bhagavad Gita 13:8-12. Atmanitvam adambhitam ahimsam shantir arjavam acharyopasanam socham stharyam atma vinigraha indyartheshu vairagyam anahankar evacha janma mritu jara vyadi dukha dosanu darshanam. Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perceptions of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease. Humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. The material conception of life makes us very eager to receive honor from others. But from the point of view of a man in perfect knowledge, who knows that he is not this body, anything, honor or dishonor pertaining to this body is not conducive for healthy healing. One should not be hankering after this mental deception. It diverts a person to the mode of passion and in mode of ignorance. The living entity, because he is transcendental, has nothing to do with this material nature. Still, because he has become conditioned by the material world, he is acting under the spell of the three modes of material nature. Because living entities have different kinds of bodies in terms of the different aspects of nature, they are induced to act according to that nature. This is the cause of the varieties of happiness and distress. The mode of passion is born of unlimited desires and longings, O son of Kunti, and because of this, the embodied living entity is bound to material fruitive actions. Non-violence is generally taken to mean not killing or destroying the body, but actually non-violence means not to put others into distress. People in general are trapped by ignorance in the material concept of life, and they perpetually suffer material pains. So unless one elevates people to spiritual knowledge, one is practicing violence. One should try his best to distribute a real knowledge to the people so that they may become enlightened and leave this material entanglement. That is non-violence. Tolerance means that one should be practiced to bear insult and dishonor from others. Simplicity means that without diplomacy, cleanliness is essential for making advancement in spiritual life. There are two kinds of cleanliness, external and internal. External cleanliness means taking a bath. But for internal cleanliness, one has to think of Krishna always and chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This process cleanses the accumulated dust of past karma from the mind. Steadiness means that one should be very determined to make progress in spiritual life. Without such determination, one cannot make tangible progress. And self-control means that one should not accept anything which is detrimental to the path of spiritual progress. One should become accustomed to this and reject anything which is against the path of spiritual progress. False ego means accepting this body as oneself. When one understands that he is not this body and is spirit soul, he comes to his real ego. Ego is there, false ego is condemned, but not real ego. In the Vedic literature, Brihad Aranyakya Upanishad 1.4.10, it is said, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, I am spirit, I am. This sense of self also exists in the liberated stage of self-realization. This sense of I am is ego, but when the sense of I am is applied to this false body, it is false ego. When the sense of self is applied to reality, that is real ego. There are some philosophers who say we should give up our ego, but we cannot give up our ego, because ego means identity, without, of course, to give up the false identification with the body. Happiness and distress are concomitant factors of material life. One should learn to tolerate, as advised in Bhagavad Gita. One can never restrict the coming and going of happiness and distress, So one should be detached from the materialistic way of life and be automatically equipoised in both cases. Generally, when we get something desirable, we are very happy, and when we get something undesirable, we are distressed. But if we are actually in the spiritual position, these things will not agitate us. To reach that stage, we have to practice unbreakable devotional service. Bhagavad Gita 6:8-14. Durges atavi aji mukhadisu prabhu payam narshimo shura. Shrimad Bhagavatam 6:8-14. Yutapari vimunchato yas mahatahasan diso vino nya patams chagrihi. O Lord Nrsimhadev, who appeared as the enemy of Hiranyakashipu, protect me in all directions. His loud laughing vibrated in all directions and caused the pregnant wives of the Asuras to have miscarriages. May that Lord be kind enough to protect me in difficult places like the forest and battlefront. Brahma Samhita 5:34. I worship the primeval Lord, only the tip of the toe of whose lotus feet is approached by the yogis, who aspire after the transcendental and betake themselves to pranayama and pranayama by drilling their respiration, or by the jnanis who try to find out the non-differentiated Brahman by the process of elimination of the mundane extending over thousands or millions of years. Brahma Samhita 5:30. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is adept in playing on his flute, with blooming eyes like lotus petals, with head decked with peacock's feather, with a figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and his unique loveliness charming millions of cupids. Brahma Samhita 5:31. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, around whose neck is swinging a garland of flowers, beautified with a moon locket, whose two hands are adorned with a flute and jeweled ornaments, who always reveals in pastimes of love, whose graceful threefold bending form of Shyam Sundara is eternally manifest. BS 5:33. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessible to the Vedas, but obtainable by purely unalloyed devotion of the soul, who is without a second, who is not subject to decay, is without a beginning, whose form is endless, who is the beginning and the eternal Purusha, yet he is a person possessing the beauty of blooming youth. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-1. Shri Brahma Vacha Naumidya ta abrava pusa tadit ambaraya gunja vatsam prapichala sanmukhaya Vanya Shraje Kevala Vetra Visana Venu Laksma Shriya Mridu Pade Pasupangaye. Lord Brahma said, My dear Lord, you are the only worshipable Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore I offer my humble obeisances and prayers just to please you, O son of the king of the cowherds. Your transcendental body is dark blue like a new cloud. Your garment is brilliant like lightning, and the beauty of your face is enhanced by your gunja earrings and the peacock feather on your head, wearing garlands of various forest flowers and leaves, and equipped with a herding stick and buffalo horn and a flute. You stand beautifully with a morsel of food in your hand. SB 10:14-8. My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of these past misdeeds and offering you respectful obeisances within his heart, words and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. Develop greater inner strength in your perception and awareness by mantra meditation. Breathing gently, meditate on sweetness of mantra and absorbing our entire consciousness enthusiastically. Chant. Now inhale and exhale and relax. Be peace. Meditate on mantra again by repeating them and carefully listening to each mantra. Do it for 5 minutes and relax again. Once again, relax all kinds of unpleasant feelings, thoughts which is entering in our consciousness, and be here now in present. The yoga of art is through our music, through our dance, and through every aspect of our life. We are tuning into the frequency of divine grace, and through our art, we become transmitters to uplift humanity and uplift the world to that divine grace. RNS. Illness begins with I. Wellness begins with me. Illness begins with I. Wellness begins with we. Look within. Within you is a hidden God. Within you is an immortal soul. Within you is an ocean of spiritual bliss. Real happiness can be found within you, not without you. Lotus life. The lotus is a symbol of purity. With its root in the mud, a flower remains above the dirty water. Live a lotus life, be in the world, but unaffected by any negativity. You are what you deepest desire. As is your desire, so is your intention. As is your intention, so is your will. As is your will, so is your deed. As is your deed, so is your destiny. In me, who am like an infinite sea, the boat of the world is driven here and there by the wind of its own nature. I remain unaffected. Our longing for God is God's love for us. Let's go of what had happened. Let go of what may come. Let go of what is happening now. Try not to figure anything out. Try not to make anything happen. Relax, breathe, and meditate. Go into the internal world of self-awareness. People in general are ready to go anywhere except within. To attain knowledge, add things every day. To attain wisdom, remove things every day. Crave for a thing, you will get it. Renounce the craving. The object will follow you by itself. We become fearless in life when we surrender to God's will. With surrender comes the faith that God is my eternal Father and He is protecting me always. I am the body is a thought. I am the mind is a thought. I am the doer is a thought. Worry is only a thought. Fear is only a thought. Death is only a thought. When all thoughts are directed to the Supreme Lord, pure consciousness remains over. Intention creates second nature. First it is an intention, then a behavior, then a habit, then a practice, then a second nature. Then it is simply who we are. Friendship is based on the spirit of sacrifice as an expression of love for the welfare of others. Love means to serve, and to serve means to please whom you serving. Having free time is dangerous. There is no greater pleasure than willing to risk one's life and make all sacrifices for the welfare of others to help them connect to the God. Humility evolves when we realize that animals have same rights to the earth as we do. On the foundation of humility, lives manifest. We can fool people around us, but we can never fool God, because from within He is seeing our intentions. Things are meant to be used and people are meant to be loved. But in current society, things are loved and people are used to get those things. RNS. Krishna, Bhagavad Gita 9:26. Patram puspam phalam toyam yume bhakti prayachati tad aham bhakti paritam asnami pratyatmana. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit of water, I will accept it. Bhagavad Gita 2:69. As a strong wind sweeps away a boat in the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. Chant Bhagavad Gita 270. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. Bhagavad Gita 261. One who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me, is known as a man of steady intelligence. Bhagavad Gita 264. But a person free from all attachment and aversion and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:21-5. Wearing a peacock feather ornament upon his head, blue kanikara flowers on his ears, a yellow garment and brilliant as gold, and the Vaijayanti garland, Lord Krishna exhibited his transcendental form as the greatest of dancers as he entered the forest of Vrindavan. Beautifying it with the marks of his footprints, he filled the holes of his flute with the nectar of his lips, and the cowherd boys sang his glories. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:21-14. O Mother, in this forest all the birds have risen onto the beautiful branches of the trees to see Krishna. With closed eyes, they are simply listening in silence to the sweet vibrations of his flute, and they are not attracted by any other sound. Surely these birds are on the same level as great sages. SP 10:21-15. When the rivers hear the flute song of Krishna, their minds begin to desire him, and thus the flow of their currents is broken, and the waters are agitated, moving around in whirlpools. Then with the arms of their waves the rivers embrace Murari's lotus feet, and holding on to them, present offerings of lotus flowers. 10:21-13. Using their upraised ears as vessels, the cows are drinking the nectar of the flute song flowing out of Krishna's mouth. The calves, their mouths full of milk from their mothers' moist nipples, stand still as they take Govinda within themselves through their tear-filled eyes and embrace him within their hearts. SB 10:21-19. My dear friends, as Krishna and Balaram pass through the forest with their cowherd friends, leading their cows, they carry ropes to bind the cows' rear legs at the time of milking. When Lord Krishna plays on his flute, the sweet music causes the moving living entities to become stunned and the non-moving trees to tremble with ecstasy. These things are certainly very wonderful. SB 10:12-7:11. All the boys would be differently engaged. Some boys blew their flutes and others blew bugles made of horns. Some imitated the buzzing of the bumblebees and others imitated the voice of the cuckoo. Some boys imitated flying birds by running after the birds' shadows on the ground. Some imitated the beautiful movements and attractive postures of the swans. Some sat down with the ducks, sitting silently, and others imitated the dancing of the peacocks. Some boys attracted young monkeys in the trees. Some jumped into the trees, imitating the monkeys. Some made faces as the monkeys were accustomed to do, and others jumped from one branch to another. Some boys went to the waterfalls and crossed over the river, jumping with the frogs. And when they saw their own reflections on the water, they would laugh. They would also condemn the sounds of their own echoes. In this way, all the cowherd boys used to play with Krishna, who is the source of the Brahman effulgence. For the Jnanis, desiring to merge into that effulgence, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For devotees who have accepted eternal servantship, and who, for ordinary persons, is but another ordinary child. The cowherd boys, having accumulated the results of pious activities for many lives, were able to associate in this way with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. how can one explain their great fortune? As long as the living being under illusion accepts the body or the mind as the soul, he will always be unhappy, like a man in the burning heat of autumn. But when the same living being becomes a devotee of Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, he at once lives a soothing life, as if under the cooling rays of the moon in autumn. Lord Sri Krishna is so merciful that he descends to reclaim suffering humanity and preaches Bhagavad Gita with the intense desire that all living beings give up all of their engagements and take shelter of his lotus feet. This is the most confidential part of all revealed scriptures. One should learn gravity from the sea and the rivulet. The sea is always within its limits, in spite of many rivers pouring water into it. Similarly, one should properly use the assets of life and not squander them for purposes that have no permanent value. Uncontrolled sensuous persons will play with the assets of the body and accumulate wealth, but the strength of the body should be used for self-realization, not for sense gratification. Human beings have two kinds of temperament. Some are introspective and the others are extravagant. Those who are extravagant and enamored of the external features of phenomenal beauty and have no insight into the whole manifestation, they are practically asleep to introspection, and thus they are unable to derive any permanent value from the assets of the human form of body. But one who has developed introspection is as grave as the sea, while those who are extravagant are calm and quiet in sleep. Such grave persons use the full advantage of the human form of life. Human life is meant for controlling the senses, for uncontrolled senses are the cause of material bondage. Om Tat Sat. Hari Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. This was the end of the book. All this reading is a part of our new book called Mantra Healing Meditation. Hare Krishna.